to work with you so you are certified to this sustainability scheme. And for all the other delegates from other countries, I would want to say you are free to work with your national standard bodies, so you are also certified to this scheme that is helping a lot of companies already. Sustainability, I think like Philip has said in his presentation, has become a critical aspect of global trade, with consumers, governments, and businesses increasingly demanding products that are not only high quality, but also environmentally friendly and socially responsible. In this context, sustainability standards and certification plays a pivotal role in promoting sustainable production and trade practices. I think today, as you see just now, we'll explore the importance of sustainability standards and certification in influencing sustainable production and trade. We hear, I think like Philip has said earlier on, from experts who share insights on the benefits and challenges of implementing sustainability standards, the role of certification in promoting sustainable trade, and best practices for organizations looking to adopt sustainable production and also trade. I think through this webinar, together with ARSO, we aim to provide you with a deep understanding of the sustainability standards and certification. So, Philip, I think without wanting to waste the time, it appears to me that our participants are now eagerly waiting for the powerful presentations lined up. I think we can start the ball rolling. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We just now want to get into the plenary session. Our plenary session will be guided by our moderator, Ms. Nyasa Mutsheka, as you can see. She is the head of marketing and business development standards, development at the Standards Association of Zimbabwe. She is an accomplished marketing and business development executive, currently serving as head of the marketing and business development unit at the Standards Association of Zimbabwe. As an international organization for standardization fellow, Nyasa is deeply passionate about standards and standardization, recognizing their vital role in advancing quality, innovation, and sustainable development. We are glad to have you as our moderator, and now we give you the opportunity to take us on to the next level, the plenary session, and call on all the panelists now to make their presentations and contributions as you guide the webinar through. Thank you very much and welcome on behalf of our Secretary General and the co-host, Mr. Mukoi. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Philip, for the warm welcome, and also for the insightful opening remarks, and also to Cosmas Mukoi, our Director General. And I would like to welcome our participants and our panelists to the program today, running under the theme Climate Change and Sustainable Trade. And I think it's both timely and crucial as we look at how standards and certification can influence sustainable production and trade across Africa and beyond. And without further ado, I would like to call upon our first speaker, who is going to talk about the trade and climate change nexus. She is going to explore the different ways in which trade and climate change intersect, and the rising demand for eco-certified goods and services, focusing on the ARSO initiatives. And this is none other than Lillian Kamanzi, who is the project coordinator in the ARSO office. And Lillian is the project coordinator for the harmonization and certification of African standards for dairy, horticulture, fisheries, and aquaculture products in ARSO. And prior to joining ARSO, she worked at Rwanda Standards Body, occupying various positions. She has also participated in standards development activities as secretary for the Standards Project Committee. Additionally, she has also worked as a contact point for International Standards Organization, that's ISO, IEC, OIML, and IMECO. Lillian has also been awarded a certificate of the G20 Global Leadership Program with KDI School of Public Policy and Management, Seoul in Korea. She holds a bachelor's degree in arts, information science from University of Pretoria, South Africa, and a certificate in project management and leadership from Hekima Institute of Peace Studies and International Relations. Please help me welcome Miss Lillian Kamanzi. Over to you, Miss Lillian. Thank you.
Thank you, Nyasha, for the introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Allow me to share now my presentation. Are you able to see my screen now? Yeah, okay.
Yes, very clearly.
Thank you. As introduced, I'm going to talk about the trade and climate change, how they intersect, and the growing demands for eco-certified products, and how ARSO is intervening also in this trend that we are having today. So as a starting point, allow me to just review together how these two terms are linked together, if I can say. You see on the right hand, you see how trade can impact the climate change through various activities that are affecting the climate. We can see the export, the agriculture, the industrial manufacturing, the transports, and also the mining extraction. These are activities, they contribute a lot in putting pressure on the environment by consuming a lot of energy, driving emissions, and also impacting land and water systems. On the other hand, you can also see how the climate as well is also impacting trade through various activities, whereby sometimes we can feel the air have high temperature, pests affecting products, the quality of the products, the floods that are damaging our value, our supply chain. All these can also that it show that there's a link between those two terms, whereby we need now to see how we can put mechanism in place to change or to support, because there's no way we can avoid that, but the only thing that needs to be done, it's making in place mechanism and also strategies that can support or reduce the impact or the risk of those different activities. When I was preparing this, I came across with this World Trade Organization report. This report from the WTO focus or highlights again the emphasis of how trade must support sustainable development and environment protection. The report goes again further by discussing on how there are different measures, policies that are in regard to border adjustment tax, carbon measurement. All these are issues that can affect trade. But the good thing we can see again in this report, how there are different policies that are being put in place to minimize those impacts. You can see them through that table. I highlighted one technical barriers to trade, whereby ARSO try to align itself so that we can have those different standards, sustainability and conformity assessment that can support in this regard. As you all know, again, these activities, it's something that the continent, the African continent, cannot do alone. We need a collaborative effort globally so that we can align ourselves to those different policies, a framework to ensure that we have mechanisms and tools that can help us to trade and respect the sustainability and also protect our environment. So I've highlighted also different trends or issues that are being highlighted and affecting the trade, whereby we see the sustainability standards, the SPS measures and the eco labels. This comes as an addition to those different risks that we are having in regard to our activities that we normally do. So all these highlight the need of, or the nexus is there. So what it needs now, we need to focus on a mechanism and policy strategies that can help us to deal with those risks. So what is now the role of ARSO in all this? So as an intergovernmental organization, ARSO has been given mandates to harmonize standards, conformity assessment, and also ensure that the quality infrastructure is strengthened to reduce technical barriers. We have different activities that align that mandate, which is to develop harmonization or harmonize African standards. We are dealing with different sectors, but today we are focusing more on the environment and sustainability standards, which we have also managed to cover some of the standard there. So in addition to that, we have also conformity assessment program and certification schemes. And additionally, we don't just develop those instruments and tools, we also provide capacity building and conformity assessment, training, awarenesses to support our stakeholders and member states to implement those different instruments. So in terms of achievements, I'll highlight the ones that deal with our topic today, which is the eco mark. This eco mark is under what we have as a ARSO conformity assessment program. The ARSO conformity assessment program, it's a structured assessment framework defined to give clear evaluation procedure. It strengthens cross-border recognition through the mutual recognition agreement. In brief, we can say that the conformity assessment program tells us what is going to be certified, how is it going to be assessed, and also who is eligible to get certified. So under the conformity assessment program, we have a number of standards that are being used to provide or to assess, to ensure that products are meeting the requirement of the sustainability standard that have been developed. We have now around 6. So far, we are implementing 6, the sustainability standard in agriculture, in fisheries, in forestry, tourism, and tilapia. What I wanted to highlight here in terms of sustainability standards, the uniqueness of these standards is just that where they focus on, or their criteria are based on the human and labor rights. They focus on due diligence, environmental and climate change, the gender, the sustainable business, quality, food safety, traceability, and credibility. And all these, they are considered in those different sectors that I've just highlighted, whether it's agriculture, fisheries, forestry, tourism, and also tilapia and the forestry. So another thing that we can highlight or can say that is unique of this system, it allows our stakeholders, the farmers, the processors, and those who are dealing with the sustainability or environmental issues to improve gradually through a different stage that you can see here. We start by different levels, and then you go by improving slowly, gradually, until you get to the last stage, which is platinum, whereby you are now confident that you are meeting all the requirements of those standards. So under this
Sorry, Lillian.
framework,
Sorry, Lillian. Sorry to disturb your presentation. I'll give you 2 minutes to just round up the presentation. Thank you.
I was saying, in addition to this, once you have already complied with these standards, you are given now the quality mark, or which is eco mark, that is given to your product to show that you have complied with all those requirements. So additional in terms of achievement, we have expanded the sectors. We are now in leather, textiles, and building. Of course, still in sustainability, and tourism, accommodation, and also mining. And again, we have engaged a different accreditation body that has accepted to integrate the EcoMark certification scheme in their accreditation scope, so that they can be supporting those different certification body to provide or assist local SMEs to comply with the requirement of standards. You can see those different CBs or certification bodies that we have interacted, and the other side, on the right side, you can see the others that are in progress. So as a way forward, we just need to highlight that sustainability is a key. Implementation of standards on sustainability is very critical, so that we can be able to trade and in these conditions of trade and climate change that we are facing. So that's why we said implementation of standards is very important. We continue engaging our stakeholders through the various activities and mechanisms where we build capacity, we support in development of standards. We also collaborate with our different partners in terms of supporting our member states in implementation of those standards. So I will not end without showing you that in addition to those different efforts that we are having, people can join us. It's transparent, it's open. The harmonization process has been digitalized. People now can participate easily online and give contribution to those different initiatives that you have seen. We have a standard library online, whereby people can get all those different standards freely and available for them to be used in regard to implementing them and also get certified. We have a database of laboratories, auditors, CBs, accreditation body, to also support our initiative and also inform our members where they can get different services in regard to sustainability and also other initiatives that we are having at ARSO. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Lillian, for the presentation. Very insightful and good initiatives there. And I've picked the need for harmonization and a collaborative approach. Thank you so much. But in brief, why is the eco certification crucial in terms of sustainable trade, and any challenges that have been currently faced by firms to get certified? from the submission that you've faced? What could be the key challenges that most firms are getting to get certified? Thank you. Over to you, Lillian.
Sorry. So I was still muted. So thank you for the question. Certification, as you said, it's very key because certification provides proof that product has met the requirements of the sustainability standards that give evidence that you have complied of all those requirements, and your product will be given, it's kind of a passport. Your product will be able to access different markets. As you said, there's no any initiative without any challenge. Yes, we are having few challenges, especially in terms of awareness on the side of our SMEs in regard to the standards that are available, the sustainability standards. We have limited accredited certification body, but as you have seen, we have engaged different accreditation body to support in this regard, whereby with the support of our partners, different certification body are being supported to be accredited and thereafter be able now to certify local SMEs. We have issue in regard to the testing laboratories in our on the countries that we have engaged. We have just noticed that there are some gaps in terms of capacity and infrastructure, laboratory infrastructure. So this is also something that can affect the implementation of those sustainability standards. But with ongoing efforts and collaboration with our different partners, we hope we'll be able to support our different members. So on what we are doing now, as we said, we have developed, as you've seen, different instrument mechanism in place, like the EcoMark, to support the sustainability standards. We are accrediting different certification body. And as you've seen, we have also expanded the scope, whereby now, instead of dealing with the agriculture, forestry, fisheries, or tourism, now we have entered into textiles, mining, leather, tourism, and many other sectors that they'll be coming soon. Additionally, ARSO is also engaged in different capacity building to our members to be able to implement those standards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lillian. I think we'll move on to hear the Zimbabwean perspective, and to do so is Dr. Tawanda Collins Mzamwese, recently conferred with a PhD. This transpired on Wednesday in Netherlands. Dr. Tawanda Mzamwese is going to talk about unlocking sustainable trade opportunities through the sustainability standards and eco-certification, the challenges for the SMEs in the production and trade value chains. Just to give you a bit of background on Dr. Tawanda Mzamwese, he is an international consultant who has carried out SHAKE audits, training and consultants in more than 100 businesses drawn from 30 countries across the world. He has trained over 5,000 people in sustainability and SHAKE. Tawanda is the Chief Sustainability Consultant and founder of Toxico Consultancy, trading as African Sustainability Consultants. He received a Master's of Environmental and Energy Management with a distinction from University Twente, Netherlands, and a Bachelor of Science Honors Applied Environmental Science, first class, from the University of Zimbabwe. He is certified benefit cost analysis, valuing life and health by the Harvard University School of Public Health, Boston, Massachusetts, USA, and also certified sustainable development in extractive industries by Columbia University, New York, USA. He is a certified lead auditor in ISO 45001, ISO 14001, and ISO 9001, certified by DQS and PCB Canada. Help me welcome Dr. Tawanda Mzamwesa. Over to you, Doc. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nyasha. Confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen, and also I would request a confirmation if you are able to see my screen, and I'm going to put it into presenter mode.
Thank you, Doc. Whilst you're sharing your screen, participants, you're free to put in your questions in the chat box. You can even direct them. If you've got Miss Lillian's questions, direct them in the chat box, or you can wait and we can take up your questions during the question and answer segment. Thank you very much. And Doc, you have 7 minutes to do the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nyasha, for the opportunity for me to share. And of course, let me recognize the Secretary General of ARSO, Dr. Himojin. Let me also recognize the Director General of SARS, Mr. Cosmas Mukoi, and of course, our moderators, Nyasha, and also all the stakeholders who are joining. And thank you, Nyasha, for being one of the first people to congratulate me in this new dispensation. But I will get straight into the presentation. The title of my presentation is Unlocking Sustainable Trade Opportunities Through Sustainability Standards and Eco-Certification, the challenge for SMEs in the production and trade value chain, the national perspective from Zimbabwe experience. And I would like to first of all really say the word, the acronym SME is quite different in different countries. Some they classify SMEs because of the head count. Others they classify SMEs in terms of revenue. But again, there is that confusion between an SME and a micro enterprise. And also a number of companies, they think they are actually big institutions, but in other jurisdictions, they are considered as SMEs. Now, as a matter of introduction, just building upon what the Director General of the Standards Association of Zimbabwe, said, we were moving in the same spirit, that sustainability is one of the pressing challenges of the world, and it is really an existential threat that threatens our existence. But at the same time, it affects our economic fortunes as organizations and also as countries. Now, developing countries, if you look at Africa, most of the countries in Africa are developing. And because of that developing context, there is a high vulnerability that African countries face because, of course, of climate change, but also in terms of the level of our economies. So as we are trying to attain growth to become upper and middle income countries, sustainability becomes a challenge to us. We are then affected by climate change. Now, in order for countries to grow and develop, trade is very important. Trade facilitates the exchange of goods and services. It is the foundation of socio-economic development. And now in the past 4 decades, there's been an escalation in the demand for standards. If you look at ISO 9001 on quality management, which started in 1987. If you look at ISO 14001, the first standard in 1996. If you look at ISO 45001, the first standard of 2018. In those last 4 decades, there's been an increased demand. So organizations, including SMEs, they are waking up to the reality of having to adopt standards on an accelerated pace to meet the needs of markets and to meet the needs of stakeholders. And of sustainability to SMEs, the linkage to global markets, enhanced corporate image. The image of an organization takes many years to build, but can be destroyed in a second. Confidence in local products, global recognition of goods and services, including innovative products. And again, when we talk about sustainability standards and of certification, there is a plethora of standards. There are many standards that are available, but of course, we also want to escalate, the EcoMark Africa, promoting eco-labeling, which was not very popular in regions like Africa. So regions like Europe with the eco-management and audit scheme. So the EcoMark Africa is there, but also not forgetting the ISO range of standards, like ISO 14001 on environmental management systems, 45001 on occupational safety and health, ISO 9001. Not forgetting ISO 26000, although it's not a certifiable standard, it's a guidance standard, it also plays a very important part, and ISO 50001. We need also to recognize different trading blocks and how do we harness SMEs to participate in these trading blocks, the African Continental Free Trade Area, COMESA, World Trade Organization, SADC, ECOWAS, the African Union, and so forth. As I come now to the last few minutes of my presentation, because I need to be very specific, I want to look at Zimbabwe just in one slide, sharing with you some of the key things that have been happening in the area of sustainability. That's Zimbabwe, for those who are coming from other countries. It's a teapot-shaped country located in Southern Africa. We are seeing some success stories through the adoption of ISO standards by companies in Zimbabwe, including SMEs. And that's why at the beginning, I said the classification of SMEs is quite controversial, because there are some organizations which do not yet want to be classified as SMEs. Some, they feel they're still too small and so forth. But we are seeing a growing number of organizations getting onto the certification scheme. Our standard Zimbabwe has some of those statistics. And the certification portfolio of SARS has been inclusive. The Standard Association of Zimbabwe does not discriminate or try to exclude organizations because they are SMEs. But let me also mention the fact that SARS has undertaken training programs on standardization that are targeted on SMEs. And recently, a training was held in Chivu, and many other trainings have been done before for leather sector, handicrafts, food processing, agribusiness, and the like. And we also see the Zimbabwe National Standardization Strategy, which also recognizes SMEs. We have seen growth by 35% in leather sector exports. We have seen cleaning services. If you look in your certification portfolio, some of the companies that are seeking certification in the cleaning services sector, of course, excluding those that have been there for a long time, some of them are actually SMEs. And they may not say that we are SMEs because of the prestige and the ego, but we begin to see cleaning service coming in. Some security companies, when they initially get certified, they are actually small scale. And it's only upon when they get that SARS mark of certification that they start growing. So we also want to recognize that. We have also had Zimbabwe now has a company that is also on the EcoMark. My last two slides, now one of them is talking about the challenges, then the other one is talking about recommendation, and I wrap up my presentation. What challenges are SMEs facing? We've got the privilege of interacting with SMEs on a day-to-day basis, and also working within SARS technical committees. We also interact with a lot of stakeholders. Number one is the lack of awareness concerning the importance of international standards. And that's why I highlighted that SARS has been undertaking activities to raise awareness. The issue of limited resources, SMEs are juggling their financials, and for them to invest in standards, some of them find it difficult. Although I think that's short-term financial thinking. The low risk perception, sometimes SMEs, they don't have a high risk perception. They want to wait for problems to happen. The standardization is seen as a cost center that affects profitability, but however, in the long term, standardization makes business sense. There's an element of culture in some SMEs which is anti-standard. So together with ARSO, together with SARS, together with other certification bodies, together with ISO, let's continue to work together to transform the culture. There's a perceived complexity, that standards are complex. So some of these are perceived, but some of them are also real. We also need to see how we come up with standards that are easy to use. I was happy to notice that SARS is now producing standards that are, for example, in vernacular languages, in local languages, of course, broiler production and things like that. These are very, very good initiatives. The lack of market information and the lack of comprehension. The last slide of this presentation is now giving the key recommendations. And these key recommendations are to national standards bodies, but also to governments across Africa, also to private sector and other players. Number one, we need to continue to include SMEs in the standardization agenda. When we do our activities, let's include SMEs in that agenda so that we create an appetite for standards. Number two, it's important to have specific standards and packages that are user-friendly for SMEs. You see that an organization that's doing large-scale mining and also another one that's doing small-scale mining, the processes may actually be different. So we need to also tailor-make standards that also suit the scale of operation. We need pooling of resources for SMEs, for example, group training for SMEs, so that an SME does not bear the cost of training on its own. Let's use group training. Let's use also SME associations, where there are groupings of SMEs, and we also take advantage of them. We sign memorandum of understanding. We run a training for the SME Association of Zimbabwe or SME Association of Zambia, SME Association of Uganda, if that exists, so that we actually harness them when they're together. The government of Zimbabwe and also the government of Rwanda, the government of Kenya, the government of South Africa need to increase incentives for SMEs which adopt standards. In your countries, what are the incentives? Because they are asking, what is in it for me? We know, all of us, because we are standards people, that standards make business sense. But for a small scale organization, do they realize that? So governments can actually have a hook through, for example, tax holidays for SMEs who are adopting renewable energy standards or energy efficient standards. Let's have a tax holiday. Let's have duty rebates where SMEs that are investing in sustainable standards, they get duty rebates. If I get on an ecomark, can I get an incentive? Because if I get an incentive, it means more companies will be on board. So let's look at those. This is again a platform for us to lobby to governments, to lobby to key stakeholders. And then finally, the national standards bodies who are represented here. And I'm happy with the work that ARSO is doing, the work that SARS is doing, the work that South Africa Bureau of Standards is doing. As national standards bodies, we need to document case studies and success stories of SMEs. Why the documentation of case studies is important? It's in order to the late adopters. I don't want to use the word laggards, but in innovation theory, when we talk about innovation theory, they are what we call early adopters. They are what we call the laggards, but I'm not going to call them the laggards. we are calling them the late adopters. So we need to capture success stories so that the late adopters will be inspired. Again, let me thank ARSO for this opportunity. Also, let me thank Standards Association of Zimbabwe for this opportunity, and all of you who have joined this webinar. Let's continue to share our experiences. So thank you very much. This is the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mzamwese, for those practical and relevant insights into the challenges and opportunities for SMEs. Thought-provoking recommendations that you have highlighted there, incentivizing SMEs for the adoption of standards and also documentation of success stories. I will hold on to my questions until we come up to the end of the program. Let me quickly introduce the next speaker, Mr. David Fetcher from British Standards International. David is going to talk about promoting industrial transformation and economic development through green transition and the adoption of climate change policies, and the role of sustainability standards and eco-certification in making trade a tool for sustainable development, the BSI initiatives, and also in the context of the EU sustainability policies. David is the head of standards, focusing on sustainability and ESG at BSI in the UK, which is a member of ARSO. And in that capacity, he leads the delivery of a program of standards to help businesses improve their ESG performance. And also to note, David was responsible for raising awareness of the new ARSO guidance, International Workshop Agreement 48, on embedding the principles of ESG into organizational culture and how standards can enable more consistent management and measurement of ESG. So helping to enhance reporting. Allow me to welcome David. David, over to you. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much. And I will just hopefully share my screen now, if you can see that, and go into present mode. And I think, as all the previous presenters have said, if you can just confirm you can see that okay now, yeah, in full mode. And you can hear me all right.
We can. Thank
Great.
you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. One of the things about going third on a list is the fact that a number of the other presenters have already covered a few points I was going to cover, but I think in a very constructive way, in the sense that I think what I'm sensing is that there are a lot of common and shared challenges, but also we're identifying in the first two presentations, and hopefully mine as well, and the others that followed, many also great opportunities that we're all agreeing on. So I think that's a case really of ARSO bringing together a number of us here where we are converging our ideas and not actually disagreeing with what some of the obstacles and solutions are. But hello, everybody. My name is David Thatcher. As you've already heard, I'm the Head of Sustainability Standards at BSI. We're the UK member of ISO. So on behalf of BSI, may I thank ARSO for inviting us to talk today on the role of international standards and accredited certification, and the role that standards and certification can play in supporting policymakers' own climate ambitions, but also how that can then unlock international trade opportunities for businesses. If I go to the next slide. Now, I do know, of course, and this has been reinforced by the last two presentations, that I'm talking today to an audience that is very familiar with the term standards in the ISO context. But just to emphasize, for any of you that have joined this webinar that are not directly associated with ISO, perhaps you're more working in a government policy environment, when we're talking about standards here, we're meaning really not so much legally required actions, but more agreed good practice, which is applied voluntarily. And in the context of today, such standards can enable organizations to set long-term goals and targets and then manage and measure performance so that they can more credibly demonstrate their commitment to sustainability. This then helps build trust with stakeholders and allows companies to enter new markets, especially where the application of the standard may be a contractual obligation or where public procurement requires suppliers to meet recognized standards to ensure resource-efficient and responsible delivery of products and services. In terms of global business standards, in terms of global business, standards can help companies meet the requirements of a license to operate, whether set by national regulation or, in the case of the European Union, which I'll talk about shortly, policies that operate across the entire regional bloc. And this lies at the heart of why ISO was created, as a unified system for products and service standards to remove unnecessary barriers to trade. In fact, the World Trade Organization, as I think Liliane touched upon, continues to encourage its members to base their regulations on international standards to prevent the creation of such obstacles. So again, I think this is a point that Liliane did touch upon as well. But to me, the true power of standards doesn't happen in isolation. There's a need for a coordinated infrastructure that houses quality. And this is built upon the key functions of any market economy: measurement, standards with, where relevant, assurance, and accreditation. In the UK, these are further enhanced by the government's own Office of Standards, which supports the BSI, although we actually do undertake our work as a standards body as an independent Royal Charter company. So used effectively, this quality infrastructure can accelerate innovation, enable growth, boost trade by bringing more consistent and transparent expectations of the performance, interoperability, safety, and sustainability of goods and services. And accreditation here, and in some of the examples I'll present, is critical, as regulators may need to have confidence that the assessment of whether a company has correctly applied a standard has itself been undertaken by those who have the competence to do so. I should use this opportunity here also to direct you to the source of some of these OECD quotes. It's a recent report called Reinforcing Regulatory Frameworks Through Standards, Measurements and Assurance, Making Better Use of Quality Infrastructure in Policymaking, which I think you'll agree is very relevant to today's discussion. I'll now present 3 different case studies of where regulations have referenced standards, and in all there is a common theme. Regulation, as I'm sure you know, will typically say what to do, but it will not usually provide any guidance on how to do it. So this means companies looking to comply with that regulation as a means of entering a new market, for example, and develop trading partnerships, will often have no confidence they are operating legally. But in all 3 examples I'm going to outline here, the role of standards is recognized. And the first 2 examples, it's the importance of accredited certification to a standard as well. So case study number 1 is a European Energy Efficiency Directive from over 10 years ago. And this was set out to impact and continues to impact all large businesses operating within the EU, whether their head office is in the EU or their operations are sizable enough within the EU, although they may be based outside the EU. The legal obligation here is to undertake an energy assessment every 4 years. In the UK, BSI, as the national standards body, engaged with our Department of Energy and informed them of the ISO standard for energy management, ISO 50001. As a result, UK companies certified to ISO 50001 energy management by an accredited certification body are now considered to comply with UK regulation under that EU directive. And the same applies to companies across the EU. In other words, in Germany, France, Italy, again, the relevance of ISO 50001 is paramount to compliance with the actual regulation. So even though the UK has now left the EU, that UK scheme, the Energy Savings Opportunity Scheme, ESOS, continues within the UK, as does reference to ISO 50001. So again, to say that a UK company that is certified by an accredited certification body to ISO 50001 is deemed by the UK government, the Department of Energy, as being compliant with the ESOS scheme. So this is a similar example, but it relates to the environment and specifically environmental permitting. So companies in England certified to ISO 14001 environmental management by an accredited certification body are not targeted by the environmental regulator called the Environment Agency as frequently as those that are not certified. And that's because the regulator sees ISO 14001 as providing evidence of a company taking environmental waste seriously and putting in place a credible system to manage the risk of pollution. So in both of these two examples, it can be seen that if regulation in other countries or regulators in other countries have similarly adopted that approach to recognition of ISO standards, then accredited certification to those ISO standards becomes a powerful passport to cross-border trade. So my final example now refers to the world of sustainability reporting. Companies, as I'm sure you know, are under increasing stakeholder scrutiny with regard to their sustainability performance. And this applies as much to large corporates who may have to step up their reporting as they fall into the scope of regulation, but also their supply chain partners who may be smaller and more globally dispersed. And now, possibly for the first time, these smaller companies, these SMEs, may have to share data back up the line to their clients without the necessary time, resources, or knowledge to know how to do so. How do they gather that data? How do they measure, for example, their greenhouse gas emissions under what might be scope 3? So there's a very complex landscape that needs navigating by companies, large and small. It's a mix of voluntary and regulated reporting, and this has often been termed the alphabet soup. So on the slide here, you'll see an example of what I mean by the soup. It's a group of logos which captures that complexity. And you can see here there's a kind of gravitational pull into the center of the slide. And it's the result of a relatively recent entrant to the world of reporting standards, the International Sustainability Standards Board, being set up in 2021 by the International Financial Reporting Standards Foundation. So that's a body that up until 2021 was focused very much on providing the guidance and standards for financial reporting, but then entered into sustainability reporting. So the aim of the ISSB was to set a global baseline for sustainability disclosures, but it doesn't have the authority to make reporting under ISSB reporting standards a legal requirement. That falls down to individual jurisdictions to either maintain them as voluntary or to mandate ISSB standards as legal. So where there is actual mandatory reporting down in the bottom right-hand corner of the slide is across the European Union under the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. And there is a standards body here called EFRAG, the European Financial Reporting Advisory Group, that is shaping standards to be applied under the CSRD, Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. Because of the fact you've now therefore got ISSB developing reporting standards and EFRAG, there's actually been efforts to consolidate and provide greater alignment and interoperability between these various reporting frameworks. But as you can imagine, a company that is actually impacted by both ISSB and EFRAG standards under CSRD, it's very complicated, and understanding what they have to report under and when only adds to that complexity. So I wanted to highlight in my third case study here, where bodies outside of the ISO system, ISSB, EFRAG, developing standards for disclosure requirements, are actually acknowledging the importance of ISO standards, and specifically ISO standards for developing net zero roadmaps. Currently, there is a standard in that space called ISO IWA 42, which I think was referenced in one of the earlier slides. That is becoming ISO 14060, hopefully publishing sometime next year. But also specifically ISO standards for managing and measuring greenhouse gas emissions. Again, ISO standards can guide organizations here, helping ensure that all businesses operating along global supply chains are working to the same methodology. So where reporting standards ask what to disclose, ISO standards show companies how they can evidence their management and their measurement of performance, which gives them more confidence, the companies, in how they can communicate that performance when they need to do so, either under reporting, whether voluntary or mandatory, or in any other kind of trading exchange, but whether it's contractual or developing new partnerships. It's about consistency and about using the same standard. This again highlights the role of standards in helping to unlock trade opportunities between countries and across continents. So just to conclude, I wanted to say that standards are, as we've heard already actually from Tawanda as well, a cornerstone of international trade. But with a climate emergency, companies really do need to identify and manage risks to future business operations and ensure resilience is part of their DNA. Performance standards from ISO can help companies to develop effective and implementable strategies for sustainable growth that are built on the foundations of global good practice. These same standards can then be used to evidence performance in reporting, especially when such reporting is mandatory. And it's the trusted knowledge in these standards that become a common currency that can then be used around the world, ensuring more streamlined procurement and opening up trade. Standards, especially when accompanied by accredited certification, can help businesses turn ambition into action, an action that they can really shout about with more confidence. And finally, I wanted to mention IWA 48. It was referenced in the introduction. Thank you for that. But IWA 48 from ISO was introduced and published at COP29 last year. And its aim is to support companies on their sustainability journey. It offers guidance on how to embed the principles of environment, social governance, ESG, into operational culture, with a view that a more structured and standardized approach to such thinking will enable better management and measurement. This guidance also signposts key ISO standards that can then be applied along the way, including many of those I've mentioned during this presentation. So that's the end of my talk for now. I will hand back to our chair. Thank you, and stop sharing.
Thank you very much, David. Turning ambition into action. We can never overemphasize that point. A very insightful presentation, interesting case studies. I think whilst we are digesting, let me quickly invite our next speaker. I will give my next speaker 6 minutes to do the presentation. And this is none other than Niels Ferdinand. Niels is coming in to talk about sustainable trade, looking at how to navigate EU regulations and market mandates. Niels is founder and director of Ferdinand Consultants and also a PTB expert on sustainability. Niels, over to you. I'll give you 6 minutes to run through your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, that's really a challenge, and I have to hurry up. Let me first start my screen sharing here. So do you see the presentation in full screen now?
Yes, please, you can go ahead.
Great. Okay, yeah, thank you. Hello to everyone. Really a pleasure. Thanks to ARSO for the invitation in this very interesting webinar. Also for the previous presenters for your very interesting insights. So as already said, my name is Niels Ferdinand. I'm the director of Ferdinand Consultants, a consultancy firm based in Barcelona. We work with both public and private, national and international clients, applying the EU regulation and as well as the voluntary standards related to sustainable trade. So in this presentation, I would like to share with you our insights with that regard. So let us first have a look at the differences between the mandatory regulations and the voluntary requirements, specifically for the trade for the European Union. So as you will know, the European Union, if we compare this region to regions like other countries like the US, we can see that the EU is more demanding with regard to environmental and social aspects in production. This is nothing new. What is relatively newer is that under the title European Green Deal, such requirements, for example, related to due diligence, deforestation, carbon-related rules, were included in legally binding legislations. And the aim of these regulations was not only to ensure good environmental and social practices within the European Union, but also in its international trade, lowering the risk of social environmental dumping, meaning that dirty production could be pushed outside the European Union and then imported back with lower costs. So the aim was to apply such criteria also in international value chains. And we have to see that the public enforcement of such regulations is always relatively slow, because it goes via market surveillance, penalties, and of course also the exclusion from the EU market, always via public administration, which of course traditionally is relatively slow if we compare it to the private sector. But as if in effect, in the EU, we have at least minimum requirements defined as legally binding in our trade. Now, if we look at the voluntary requirements, we see that we have certain voluntary commitments and contractual arrangements defined by the big buyers, often the well-recognized firms, and also increasingly investors, which see that sustainability criteria are crucial today to assure their return on investment, always pushed by commercial interests. They want to lower their risks. They want to be seen as a company that does sustainability aspects better than others, which is more sustainable than others, and apply due to that different instruments, especially voluntary sustainability standards, also the ESG frameworks. We just heard it in the presentation by David, for example, here GRI, and also very private requirements defined in private codes of conduct, specifically for certain companies. So the application of such requirements is direct and fast, because the buyer, for example, simply stops buying from a supplier which doesn't comply. As an effect, we have such voluntary requirements that become de facto mandatory today, because simply you have to fulfill them if you want to participate in your target market. So let us now briefly look at some examples and the current status of the European Green Deal. And probably you will have heard already about the discussion around the so-called EU Omnibus regulation. So in the EU, currently we see a trend towards deregulation. Why is that? We have a changed composition of the European Parliament with a strong trend towards more the right-wing parties, including also far-right parties. And they are currently actually leading the discussion on the application and the changes of such regulations. So they put it under the title of simplifying regulations. We in practice see it actually more as a deregulation. And we see that on the different examples that we see here on the slide. For example, the deforestation regulation aiming at preventing an impulse towards deforestation by imports to the EU was pushed far back with regard to time, and also the requirements are less restrictive today. The same is the case for the carbon border adjustment mechanism, trying to prevent the import of carbon-intense products for a lower price. Also, such regulations are being pushed further back and with regard to time, and the thresholds have been substantially increased. And we heard that also in the presentation of David, the CSRD regarding sustainability regulation was substantially reduced with regard to the requirements, around 90% lower now, and the due diligence directive around 70%. And also here the thresholds for companies that have to apply were increased. So specifically around the omnibus application, we still have an ongoing discussion. For example, what we just heard, IFRAG, there's a huge discussion still on this specific application of the sustainability reporting regulation. This discussion is still not closed, and the companies are wondering now what really needs to be applied today and in the future. So we have a shift in sustainability governance, and what are the results of such shifts? First, and we see that very concretely in the clients which we work with. Many companies are simply asking, yeah, now what? They don't know what to apply and what to expect from the European Union anymore, because there's so much discussion and so many changes. First, strong push towards regulation, and now everything is deregulated again. And also still we don't have clarity. It's still unclear for many companies what they really will be have to apply. Even the thresholds are not clear often, so they don't know if they're in scope or not. So what is the result? Companies simply put investments on hold and improvements in their sustainability management on hold. And of course, that's not a good situation, because companies need clarity with regard to the application of such criteria. We have a fragmentation across member states. For example, here in Spain, where we are based, the regulation with regard to carbon accounting is much higher than in other EU member states. And of course, the EU is losing their leading position as leading in sustainability aspects. So it's really creating confusion globally, and that's not good in international markets, especially if we are talking about important issues such as human rights or climate change. And of course, we also have competitive and operational distortions. And also this we see concretely in practice, that companies that did a good job actually applying such regulations early and preparing them in a thorough manner have disadvantages today, because they have higher costs and now have to adjust again their management systems to the changed regulations. And the laggards, which simply didn't do anything, and have advantages today because they can apply the new regulation with less costs. So what do we have as takeaways looking into these changes within the European Union? First, we see that the companies that take sustainability serious are actually the stable force here, because they started applying sustainability criteria already many years ago, and see that as core part of their strategies and of their management systems. And they will do that also in the future, independently of any regulations. We see also that this is an example of the limits of market-specific regulations. We, from our practical viewpoint, see that the EU maybe overdid it a bit in some areas, specifically where very detailed requirements were defined, for example, for sustainability reporting. Maybe, I would really say they overdid it a bit. And we see the effects now that as soon as the political trends shift, also such regulations shift, and this creates big confusion in national and international markets. And compared to that, we see that the international standards are actually also the stabilizing factor, because they remain simply the same even if the regulation changes. So here a strong word for the standardization, and this is especially important here in this forum. Standards are stable as long as they are not adjusted due to the inputs of stakeholders, and they are well recognized by international stakeholders, covering the different areas. So this is very important to guarantee the applicable requirements in international trade. Now, what is the implication for regulation? Regulation should really focus on the areas that are really necessary to regulate, and if possible, should make reference to international standards for the details, and of course, always applying the WTO TBT requirements, meaning to focus on areas which really require such regulation for the protection of public health and the environment, and leave the rest for the voluntary sustainability standards. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Niels. Such insightful presentation. Just a quick one. I know you have touched on some of these, but just for clarity's sake, just looking at the EU's role as a major regulatory force, what is the long-term outlook of this European Green Deal, and how will it influence global trade?
Mm-hmm. Yes, thanks a lot for the question. Well, I think in about half a year we will have complete clarity, because these changes are step by step implemented now, and the discussion will be finalized, for example, on the ESRS, on the regulation on sustainability standards, will be finalized in roughly half a year. Then we will have it completely clear. What we see is a decrease in the requirements. This is what we can expect. And also I see that I don't expect these requirements still to decrease then afterwards further. So in half a year, we will have reach the bottom line. This is what I expect. Then the political discussion will be hopefully over. But this doesn't mean that then in the far future, again, the regulations will increase. So we don't know if how the regulation will look in 4 years from now. So I think also considering that, international business does good in orienting itself on the criteria being defined in international standards. But because most regulation are more or less aligned with such requirements. So if we comply with these relevant standards in our applicable area, we can be more or less sure that we are also in line with the most relevant requirements of international regulations.
Thank you, Niels. And just looking at the developing countries, for most of the producers whose operations fall outside of the immediate scope of these major regulations, what is the strategic imperative for addressing the sustainable issues?
Yeah, also very good question. Thanks a lot. And of course, that's a question we often hear from our clients. So first of all, we have to check what the market demands. So what do our buyers really need, and what are the market requirements? And we have to specifically focus on such requirements, because sustainability is a too broad term. to do everything with that regard. So first, market requirements. Second, and this is something what was established by IFRAC, actually a part of the European Sustainability Reporting Standard, which is the double materiality approach. So companies should check which sustainability aspects are really material for them. So material means relevant. So what are the really core aspects that a company should consider, considering its financial risks and opportunities, and on the other hand, its core impacts with regard to sustainability. So this is the double materiality approach. So the company should identify such aspects and integrate them into its sustainability strategies, and also into their business model, and also into its sustainability management systems. So systematic integration is called, because otherwise we will skip such aspects again if the regulation changes in the future. So this focus is crucial, and of course then apply the international standards if they are helpful for the management and the fulfillment of the specific requirements around such sustainability aspects that were identified as material for my specific case.
Thank you very much, Niels, for those valuable insights on navigating EU regulations. Much appreciated. That was very insightful. I think we'll quickly jump into our last but not the least speaker, coming from the International Organization for Standardization, to talk about promoting industrial transformation and economic development through international standards, looking at ARSO's role in supporting the SDGs and climate action. And to do this is Shangxin Zhang. She is a member of the Engagement of Climate Action Coordinator at the International Organization for Standardization. She manages the ARSO National Climate Champions Network, connecting ARSO members with ARSO's global efforts and ensuring the exchange of good practice. And she has over 9 years of experience in standardization. Allow me to welcome Shangxin Zhang. Over to you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nelsha. So let me share my screen. So I'll do my best to conclude my slide deck as quickly as possible, so that we might have some extra time for Q&As. Yeah, let me quickly begin with the topic today. So today's topic is about global trade as well as sustainability. So here I'd like to begin with to give you a little bit introduction of ARSO Sustainability Unit. So it's one of the most largest units in ARSO CS, and we mainly dealing with all aspects that are related with sustainability. Right now, we are dividing the sustainability into two parts. The one is environmental sustainability. The other is social sustainability. For environment, we are now overlooking the climate action, the plastic pollution, biodiversity, and environmental data, subtle things. Then for the social sustainability, we focus on gender balance, as well as we want to encourage the new professionals to join ARSO community. So today I'd like to take climate action as an example, just to let you know that ARSO have a various of initiatives to cover these topics. Then regarding the ARSO's climate commitment and action, I think it was in 2029 in September during the ARSO plenary meeting, all ARSO members agree that ISOs should integrate climate thinking or climate science into the process of standard development, either new standards or the revised ones. And in the same time, ISO would do our best to make great efforts to include the most vulnerables and the civil societies into this process. So this is what we call the ISO climate commitment, or well known as the London Declaration. Then to fulfill this commitment, to make the world into some real actions, ISO have this initiative. We have 3 pillars for ISO's climate action. The first one is the standards development and the stakeholder engagement. So here you might be very familiar that ISO has mapping over 600 standards that are closely related to climate issues. For instance, the famous 14,000, the famous 5,000 series. ISO also established advisory mechanism that 6 advisors, external advisors, are actually giving their opinions or recommendations to the TCs that are in these 3 sectors when they are trying to develop some standards that are related to climate. And these 3 sectors are energy, transportation, and building. Then also, ISO try a great efforts to incorporate of climate considerations into almost 50 management system standards, the most well-known standards of ISO. So here, here's the first pillar, the standards development. Then the second pillar is the strategic partnership. So ISO would like to work together with the global friends, the global counterparts, to let the standards voice to be heard. So ISO has making collaboration with a lot of international organizations, for instance, WTO, UNEP, GHG Protocol. So you might have heard that this year ISO has finalized its collaboration agreement with GHG Protocol, is to unify a single global framework for greenhouse gas measurements and reporting. So this will reduce the fragmentation, lower the compliance cost, and build a trust among the global stakeholders. Besides this, ISO is also working on our best to participate some big events globally, to leveraging, to mobilizing the power of standards. For instance, each COP, I think from COP 27, ISO has actively participated. And together with other international standardizers like IEC, ITU, ISO each year will organize a standards pavilion at COP in Blue Zoom, so that all the global standardizers will have a place, a home, to have activities, to organize sessions, and to amplify the voice of standards. We believe that international standard is a very key tool for the policy making and negotiation, because standards can providing very neutral and science-based framework to serve as a very trustable documents for those policymakers to begin their negotiation, and also can bring building bridges between different, bring all kinds of stakeholders. And also, international standards apparently can strengthen the implementation of Paris Agreement. So here's the second pillar. Then the last but not least is the members' engagement. So the ISO's climate commitment is not just for ISO as an organization itself, but also for all ISO members. We need efforts of all our members. Here, please allow me to focus on this Climate Champions Network. So this is a place that ISO created, an online place for all its members or NSBs where they can share their progress on climate action, share their lessons learned and the best practice with each other. So now this climate community has over 100 participants or champions from over 60 NSBs, or we call it members. Among them, 9 members have already established their national climate action plan strategy or something similar. Then on the right-hand side, you can see the distribution of our champions in 4 regions, which means that we also work closely with the regional coordinators of ARSO, and also we want to stay close with the regional standardization organization to boost the active participation of the members in this region. So if your country or your NSB have not joined this community, please take a screenshot or do it later by scanning this QR code. You can have access to more details of this network and can also get registered. So here, just to show you some activities, some webinars we organized throughout the year. So we organize webinars almost every month on diverse topics, but these topics are all related to climate. For instance, in January this year, we have a joint webinar together with the Gender Balance Network. We're talking about women and the climate. We have many interesting inputs, contributions from the African region. Also, in April this year, we have our members in Zimbabwe to share the green technology and sustainability progress in their country, and that was very interesting as well. So let me conclude with some recommendations for you to move on. I think the first is the international standards. Either you adopt it or you develop it. It can help you to modernize sustainably, to boost competitiveness in renewable energy, agriculture, manufacturing, and a lot of sectors also. Also, to stay aligned or to compliance with the international standards will increase the reliability to the investors and the trader partners, of course. Then the most important is you just need to let your voice to be heard. Actually, ARSO provides many frameworks for training and knowledge sharing, and also to encouraging developing country members to actively engage with us. For instance, we have this developing country action plan that we can give sponsorship to our members in developing countries for you to participate the technical committees meeting, like the working group meeting, like the plenary meeting, or to give you sponsorship to attend ARSO annual meeting, as well as the climate COP. Here, just a quick message for your reference. ARSO, actually, as an intergovernmental organization, you can also participate COP as an observer. If you are interested, we can stay in touch offline. The last but not least, to engage with the policy, we tend to encourage our members to engage with the policymakers, because the government, they can use ARSO standards to strengthen their regulatory frameworks to ensuring alignment with the global climate commitment and sustainable targets. Okay, so here I tend to stop my slides and give the floor back to Nyasa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shing, for the inspiring and forward-looking presentation. Much appreciated. Maybe in the interest of time, I'll allow you to then do just a 1-minute parting shot, way forward. What do you think should be done in 1 minute? Ms. Zhang, over to you. Yeah, it's okay. Just 1 minute. Way forward.
So I think my keywords will be engagement, to engage with ISO, with the policymakers, with the international counterparts, to let the voices of standards to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Niels. Just in 1 minute, your parting shot or way forward?
Engage in international standardization and apply international standards related to sustainability.
Thank you very much for that. Dr. Tawanda, your parting shots in 1 minute.
Thank you very much. My parting shot is that in terms of standardization, we should leave no one behind, including the SMEs. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's not leave anyone behind. Miss Lillian, your 1 minute, way forward, take away.
Thank you. As a takeaway, I think we need to appreciate the initiatives and the efforts that are there in terms of reducing the climate trend and climate issues. But I'll add on that sustainability standards are key. I'll call upon our SMEs, our partners, to implement those standards and start getting the benefits. Because sustainability standards, they provide structure, consistency, and credibility, and they will help to maintain their competitiveness on the global market. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And coming to you, David, I think I had reserved one question, just trying to manage on time. But maybe you can help unpack this one. How are sustainability standards and the eco certification key pillars in the green transition, the green industrialization, and the adoption of climate change policies?
Good question. I think one word we've heard a lot is the importance of trust. I think we talked about, we heard from the labeling and about greenwash and consumers, whether they're B2C consumers or B2B consumers. They need to have trust in the fact that a product does what it's supposed to do, a service delivers on what it's supposed to do. But if it's also got a sustainability ambition, there needs to be that trust that actually it's going to deliver on what it's supposed to do, but also not have any negative impact on the environment or society. So I think there's a huge role here for standards and certification and policymakers to work together. It's back to that quality infrastructure I was talking about, to make sure that trust is a sort of central driver into these kind of buying decisions, and people have more confidence in the market dynamics that can actually deliver on products and services, but in a sustainable, ethically sourced way as well. So that's probably what I'd say by way of a response.
Thank you so much, David. I pick trust, confidence, building confidence, and just your parting shots. What could be the way forward?
Again, we've heard the word engagement is so important. I know it's hard for standards bodies, but I think definitely our experience is we need to engage with those in the UK and who own policies, but also track where there are emerging policies that are going to impact the UK, whether from Europe or elsewhere, and in a way almost try to sort of preempt what some of the challenges that companies are going to have. So rather than just say a standard as a solution, it's to try and engage with companies through business associations and SMEs, to Tawanda's point, and anticipate what some of the challenges they're going to have in 3 or 4 or 5 years' time, and then position standards as being a solution and encourage those companies to get involved in standardization, especially SMEs as well. They've got so much else to worry about. They can't be thinking in terms of standards as a solution on a day-to-day basis. They want us to bring them the kind of the roadmap of how they can, you know, build resilience into their kind of operations, and that's the power of standards.
Thank you so much, David. And I don't see any questions in the chat box, but should you have any questions at some point, please do share these questions with the ARSO Central Secretariat or with SARS, and we should be able to reach out to our panelists, and they will be able to respond to these questions. Ladies and gentlemen, as we draw this enriching session to a close, I would like to thank our panelists for a job well done, insightful presentation, and thought-provoking points that were coming out there. And to all participants, thank you for the engagement. I could see the claps and the comments in the chat box. Thank you very much. I will now hand over to our host. Over to you, Philip.
Thank you very much. We want to thank our panelists so much. I think that one was very, very great presentations that followed my earlier opening remarks and some few slides that I put on. There is a lot of connectivity in all of this, and we thank you so much. You brought it so much clearly. We want to thank our moderator for taking us through the plenary sessions, and mostly also for our delegates and participants who have been here, seen so many of our member states, so many of our experts, so many of our stakeholders being here, including the African Union, and we don't take it for granted. We thank you so much. I will take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Mukoi to make a final remarks and the word again to the delegates. Thank you. We are not hearing you. Not yet. Mr. Dan, can you check again the rights?
Maybe you can proceed, sir.
Not yet. Technologically, we are still not able to connect. You can see you very clearly, but the sound is still not there.
Kindly bear with us as we try to rectify this technological glitch. I think he will be up in a bit.
Yes, kindly do so as we are finalizing. It is, I think this is one of the sessions that we've learned a lot on the issues of sustainability. As I highlighted in the first slides, sustainability and sustainable development is something that now touches all the sectors of development and all the areas of our development in one way or the other. So for where we are, the policymakers, the standardization community, the university lecturers, it's just a matter of incorporating it in our activities. And I think I like the way the panelists have really put it across that we make the voice of standardization be felt in the policy making processes so that as they do that, also the standardization and the contributions of standardization as a pillar to achieving sustainable development is recognized. Nyasa, you will tell us if when you are ready.
You can proceed and conclude, Philip.
No, it's okay if Mr. Mukoi is ready.
He has suggested that you conclude the session. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. And unfortunately, also technology has taken us there. So we want to. Are you back, Mr. Mukoi?
There is
it's
no
not
sound
happening.
from his end.
Yes. So we want to thank Mr. Mukoi very much for the co-hosting. And I think as we are continuing, I will ask Mr. Dan to go to the next, share the next slide just on our next webinar. We have our next webinars assigned for the 2026, and we will continue partnering with you, all the panelists, all our stakeholders, all the experts that we have. Mr. Dan, can you share or I can share?
Kindly share, Mr. Philip.
Okay, this one was the plenary session, but we didn't have any questions on the chat box, but we had a lot of comments that we saw, and we had a lot of interest in the presentations. We took note of the emails that you had indicated. We will share the presentations shortly, and also they are normally in our website. Just some takeaways. I know these are some kind of familiar words we normally come across. As I explained, we only create awareness about what is going around us so that you go at an individual level, at corporate level, and organizations, departments level. You can do your small research and find out about these things. You are a university lecturer. You can always be in a position to explain this to the students. This is what is happening at the outreach that they are doing. But we have aligned the 2026 beams that were approved by the 73rd ARSO Council during its meeting in November 17th to 21st here in Mombasa, Kenya, as hosted. And we are appreciative to the Kenyan government through KEBS for hosting the 73rd ARSO Council meeting, which approved this tentatively as our beams and topics. And you can see there's a lot which is coming up that we will also be presenting. And we want to highlight the fact that as we continue, more member states are becoming so much interested, and we will see situations where we co-host together with the member states. At the same time, there are so many joint webinar sessions that we are aligning because of the stakeholders' interest to use our platform together as we use their platforms to reach out on issues of standardization and how standardization is impacting on sustainability and sustainable development or economic development, and why we reach out to our SMEs, because SMEs are the engines of development in all the societies, and yet they also face the greatest challenge in compliance issues and in adoption of standards. So we will look forward to more engagement as from January on our essay not essay competition. Essay competition is also aligned somewhere there because we value the youth, because they are the future leaders, future presidents, future ministers, future consumers, and future industrialists. We look forward to engaging. We want to take this opportunity as ARSO Central Secretariat on behalf of our Secretary General, Dr. Hemogene Sengemana, and on behalf of Mr. Cosmas, who has requested me to end the session, to thank you very much for taking this opportunity to be with us. The panelists, the panelists, it was a great opportunity, and we want to appreciate you so much for the role that you really played. You have really made it a successful story, And we want to thank all our panelists throughout the year. We want to thank all our standardization community. We want to thank, I think we deserve to thank the African Union, because the African Union has really played a great role in policy making in Africa. And we thank them also that since the formation of ARSO, the African Union has always been ever present to support ARSO, and they participate in our webinar sessions. And I saw our dear brother, Dr. Oswald, actively participating. We want to thank the African Union together with all the other ARSO stakeholders. So in this case, we will just request you to put on your videos, the camera, so that we take the final photos for this webinar that we have had. I'm seeing so many of our experts, we have seen so many of our colleagues. We request you to put on your cameras so that we finalize on this webinar session. It was great. It has been a great opportunity since January up to now, and we thank all our member states we co-hosted with, and we look forward to co-hosting once again. And we thank our moderator for today. That one was good work. We thank you. So our colleague, Mr. Dan, will guide us. Yes. Thank you so much. We really appreciate the panelists. That one was so great. It has come out very clearly. Mr. Cosmas, sorry for the challenge, but we really appreciate your presence throughout. We really acknowledge. Thank you so much.